Good morning, my neighbors. Welcome to another episode of BYTTT. It looks like my there we go. Camera's up and running. Um, Here we go. We got a lot that we got to cover. Um, wow, what a market, right? It's just insane. I anticipated something like that could have happened, but I thought it was going to get a little bit deeper of a pullback before that actually panned out. But unfortunately, the market has its own plans, and we're just trying to get our piece when it's all said and done. Let me get this all squared away. All right, that looks good. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the chart. All right, so here's NQ, right? And let me get this out your way. But yeah, we really kind of did like some crisscross action, right? And the pressure of that downward trend, that first reaction of it was right around here, and I kind of got myself a little beat up on that. This was like a couple weeks ago, and then last week was the one that was the stronger rejection, which I thought was going to get a little bit deeper down here. And again, when you're planning something in the market, you just want to just kind of chart it out, and then if it does what it has to do, then you just run and follow suit. But if it doesn't, then you follow suit the opposite way, right? So we could see that massive close off, wick down this level, took out a support. Looks like this support kind of held with the daily. I was looking for it to like really drop and then start to get into the 618 on the daily, or even a little bit further, but we didn't get that deep. I do think that the 50 moving average probably is a play of that effect, but I think a nice reset would have reset the stochastic. I don't like where the stochastic is sitting right now, especially after making very choppy and erratic moves. It wasn't as smooth as this, which led to our run up that we kind of enjoyed and know right in here. So just keep that in mind that there might be a major sell-off if that's the case. Because I think the accumulation phase happened in the middle of the stochastic. So let's go ahead and get deep into it. So we got oil. Now remember what I told you about oil. I was like, yeah, they took out the highs, right? But I just utterly did not trust it. If you were playing oil and you played it to the downside, congratulations. This was a very solid move to the downside. Came back to the order block, and they're trying to see if they close under the order block, because if we get a flat close by the end of the day, I would say we're probably going to get one more red and really put some pressure on this micro uptrend on oil, and probably is going to try to get some lower lows. Again, I'm not saying that it's going to happen. You want to chart, just draw the lines, put your levels, so that way you can make sure you know what you see, and you can plan accordingly. All right, so let's keep this going. We got gold. Gold looks like this. Again, with the fact that gold's been on a run, I think that's why we're getting such a detachment away from silver. And you could kind of see we're getting this curl over here, and they're looking to try to make some lower lows here. If we can get under this 33, we're 3316, we're probably going to get into that 3300, maybe 3280, somewhere around that ballpark. I want to say I aimed for the 50 EME around 3300. So look for what it do, Ron. But yeah, I think gold can get to 3300, and that'll probably be the first test for a reversal, and then go back to its regular scheduled program, because I think gold's still going to go up. Here's silver. Again, detached, right? This one's pushing up while gold is pushing down. Not the same thing. So I think silver is giving a little bit of a divergence, and we'll see what happens there. This is the British part of the run up and that drop. And I explained to you, draw out the British pound. When the British pound started to make this move, and I saw this really, really late in the afternoon, I was like, oh, we're going to gap tomorrow. And we pretty much are sitting on top of the shoulders of giants. I'm looking at British pound probably push it a little bit higher. I really, really should have saw this a little bit earlier. I probably would have took some option calls to the upside, because with the British pound pushing up, it's going to go ahead and put pressure on that dollar. Dollar's going to drop, and overnight sessions probably already signaling, just because of this bumper run action. And you can see we're starting to really cross over that line, and we're going to put pressure on this pivot, and let me get that out of the way, and that pivot, right? So these two pivots are the last bit of, I would say, bearish defense that's left. And if that actually fails, then we're probably going to go ahead and really take off on the British pound, which is going to put pressure on the dollar. Looking at ES did fill its fair value gap. That was that first rejection. If we get a close above here, oh yeah, we're going to probably stay low but bullish, and we're probably going to get these new highs. Look for ES to get to the new highs around 61.66. Russell, they're pouring money in all aspects. I don't think the Russell's going to get its all-time high, but it does look a little inverse head and shoulderly, right? The way this kind of looks, very janky on the shoulder here, for those that don't know. But yeah, if we're going to get an extension, it's probably going to be up into here. If you play the Russell, probably around 23, 27, somewhere around there. All right. And then the last we're going to cover is the infamous, undoubtedly terrible dollar. This is the one that always gives us a lot of trouble when it comes down to our upward side movement. You want to see the dollar lose value, but we're in a very weird space, especially with the wars and everything else. If we really start to go lower here, that means the value of the dollar is completely receded. Let's go to a weekly. Let me show you what I mean. This was the recovery of the pandemic, right? This was 2021. This is why we had massive sell-off. This was cheap money to get the economy started back up after the recession, of the pandemic recession, I would say, right? And then 2017-18, this is the Jay Powell effect, when he was like, hey, we're going to go ahead and have cheap money. And then as soon as he said, hey, I think we're going to raise interest rates to raise the dollar's value, the whole entire market panicked, and that's when we had those sell-offs that y'all see and know and love, right? So being that the fact that the dollar was as high as 115, and that's what really made us drop off, I think when we get here, we're probably going to get into that 96, probably get one more rally, probably going to be one of the main reasons why when I go over to the tickers is going to be the fun stuff that's going to go ahead and give us the money that we're looking for. All right, before we do that, let's go to my FX book. My FX book is one of my favorites because it allows me to kind of see what news is coming up. I did tell you this is going to be a heavy-handed news cycle this week. Let's go ahead and pull this up, especially with Jay Powell running his mouth. That's the one that's going to be the big kicker, right? And you could kind of see you got core inflation over in Canada. You got consumer confidence that's going to be coming in. Jay Powell speaks at 10 o'clock, folks. 10 o'clock. So pay attention to your charts. For my day traders, you should be happy. There's going to be some volatility. For my ones that swing trading, it's probably not going to be the best time for you to get in, if anything. Just keep that in mind. Maybe at the end of the day, but not right there. So let's talk about tomorrow. So tomorrow we're going to get mortgage rates, and then we're going to get new home sales, and then Jay Powell talking again. Oil inventory, a couple of bill auctions, and then that's the end of Jay Powell talking because it's only 2 days. And then Thursday we got some core PCE information, jobs report, defense, durable goods. All of these things are coming in. It is heavy all the way into Friday, where we're going to get personal income, core PCE index year over year, and you're going to get Fed speaking, and the most dangerous or the most volatile out of all, Michigan sentiment. So it's going to be a day trader's paradise. That's how I think. So we're going to go ahead and see how that works throughout the week. All right, so let's go ahead and get into some tickers. I kind of went over the first month of everything that should be coming in during the earnings cycle. If there's a ticker that you want to see, by all means, you can go ahead and type it in the chat or DM me, and I'll put it on the board. All right, so the first one I'm going to talk about is Netflix. Now, I was speaking to somebody earlier, and I said, well, if you look at this Netflix, this is what it looks like on a 12-month scale. This is crazy. Ever since it broke out at 715, it hasn't looked back ever since. I think they're probably going to be due for a split very soon. But if we look at this daily, nice little massive move. We're sitting on another rise. It does look like a rising wedge, so you might want to be a little careful here. But for the most part, this looks good. And here's your stochastic. Here's your MACD. It just keeps on trucking. I think $1,000 is really where I want to see it retest sometime in the near future. But again, this thing is on a tear. This thing wants to hit some levels. The Meta, I'm looking for Meta to hold 700. Looks like this pre-market might give that to us. If we can get a daily that holds this 700, then I probably would test. I can't talk earlier this morning. Test levels like 716, 740, somewhere around this area, because then we could put some pressure on that new high and fill the rest of this gap, because we didn't get the rest of the gap in Meta. So Meta looks really, really good. I was looking at some $800 calls. I think it was good volume over there. So I'm probably going to be looking out for that. Again, it's going to be put in histogram divergences. It's going to be a day trader's paradise, I'm telling you. All right, let's get to Lockheed Martin. I do think Lockheed Martin is going to come down. There's talks on potential ceasefire, and it could be a setup for the most part, so that way they could go ahead and make cheaper prices so they can buy the dip. I'm not saying for you to go ahead and put your whole entire house on top of putting puts on Lockheed Martin. That's not what I'm saying. It's just when you see the news, it's starting to talk about certain things. It's time for you to kind of plan accordingly. We didn't really explode, and this is after the whole entire bombing. How come the explosion hasn't really happened? Could it be they're waiting for Trump to say, hey, U.S. is going to get involved with the war? Supposedly there are some airstrikes that was released. I don't know. Again, I take everything with a grain of salt. I'm looking at the technicals here, and nothing here screams out it's ready to move up. Again, those that know, they're going to put it in their portfolio first, and they can't hide the fingerprints. So I really suggest you understand technical analysis. This does not look bullish. Look how many times it's rejecting that 200 moving average. Pre-market, it's down. Yes, it is wedging, but until this thing makes a decision, you're pretty much barcoding, and this is what the weekly looks like. It's not the most sound situation unless you're going to get in the bottom of the range. Roughly around 450 would be a good place if I was thinking it's going to go higher. All right. Microsoft is still trucking. It's trying to continue this rise and making higher highs on top of higher highs. So I'm not going to suggest you to buy high so you can sell it higher, but I do think it's going to get to that 500 level. If you're already in the position, or you can find a safe position, I think that's the target they're looking for. I would aim for like 499 just in case the rest of the market just pulled the rug from you. But overall, this looks really, really good for more upside as the market looks like it's pushing. I'm going to skip healthcare. We're going to go straight to Tesla. So Tesla, I was really looking for this 350 to hold. And part of me wanted to say, I think they're going to gap it up. But I've seen where, okay, for example, I wanted to take Tesla up. It didn't hold 350. It gapped down. It got up here the next couple of days, and then it made this massive move back to the downside. So I was very hesitant on getting in, and I'm still a little apprehensive for the most part because Tesla has a little bit of bad news, especially their EPS and missing the revenues. Elon Musk, and they're talking about change of CEO. SpaceX just went ahead and blew up rocket. Like, there's just so much things that's going on the Tesla side. More competitors are coming into play. Not saying they don't have a strong moat. I just think there's a lot of people that's abandoning ship that's not giving me confidence for me to go ahead and jump into this ticker. So I would say I may day trade Tesla, especially now that it's above that 350. I think we could get around that 400 by the end of the week with this momentum, because there's a gap that I'm very curious if we can get back to. But I like where Tesla is sitting right here. They've taken out a lot of the bearish momentum, especially the bearish momentum that occurred roughly around June 4th, earlier this month. And right now they're trying to hold what they created yesterday. And as long as that's there, yeah, I'll probably put my stop loss just under that candle. What else we got? IBM had a nice little push. They gained 2% yesterday. Yes, they were actually really 3%, and the momentum just continued. They're probably looking for that 300. If you were paying attention to what I was saying earlier in this month, IBM is the pioneer for the most part of AI with their Watson technology. They've been doing it for a long time. Companies like Salesforce was using Watson before AI was even a conversation, and pretty much makes Siri look silly, right? So I do like IBM in this space right here. I think this is taking a nice little stride to the upside. I am considering getting into this bad boy. Only reason I'm saying that is because more investment side than actually playing it for a day trade. But you could kind of see the weekly is looking bullish, the monthly looking bullish, and then this is what the yearly looks. This thing looks insane. Like this thing is just party just getting started. So there will be pullbacks. Okay. So if you're looking in the same investment space itself, this is talking about taking a very small position that I'm comfortable with so I can continue to play this to the upside with the intent that if it does make some type of downward trend on the daily or maybe even the weekly, when it finally turns back over, I'll probably be adding into my position. Just that simple. All right, so I do like IBM here. I do like JPM for more upside. I think they can get to 300 as well. You can see that, oh wow, that's funny. I had drew this line for the highs here, and you could see pre-market we're already there. So this is going to be very interesting on how they react to it. I wanted them to reset, come down to this trend line before we actually went back up, but they already started to break a structure where they played it to the downside once. And yeah, I made my money just sitting on the sidelines and just waiting for that next opportunity. Let's see, it's another big mover and shaker. Not DR Horton, 3M. For there's some people that was asking me about 3M and where it is right now, so I'm probably going to use this opportunity and snip it and send it off to them. But 3M, listen, I said above 148 I'll be comfortable. Here is our bullish divergence, which was confirmed technically yesterday. The safer entry is anything above 148, so at the open I may be considering getting into a position for 3M. If you don't know who this company is, if we go to the monthly, there was a really good company. They got hit with a lawsuit roughly around here. Most of the lawsuit was taken care of here, and when they had to pay the payout, that's the main reason with this drop, including the pandemic and all that rebalancing of cash in the market. So now that it's kind of filled its base roughly around that $71, I think it's starting to get back to its stride. I'm aiming for new highs on this ticker, give or take a couple of years, because now they're back at giving money to shareholders, solid revenue, and as long as they can avoid lawsuits, this thing should be able to get there. Holla at NH. They're still trying to figure out what they're going to do with themselves. Here's ZOM and here's CVX. I kind of warned y'all with this one that, you know, with oil looking the way it is, if you played puts, congratulations, that's fine. But again, if oil is moving a certain way, if oil hits certain targets, it will be reflective on these tickers. You can see these massive drop-offs. Gave y'all the warning. You could position yourself to make some money off of it, or you could have left it alone, whatever you felt at that point. UPS, this one, I am really looking for this thing to hold the $100 level and probably rally into the year, probably like 110, maybe even 115 by the end of the year. We'll see how that goes, but I think this is its bottom. Can it bear flag on us? Absolutely. And I think it got a nice little extension where it can, because this was about, let's take a peek. So from this drop to about that rise, it was about 35 days of them moving it up, and then they made another extension to the downside. If we look at this one, here is that. This is about 50 bars of 75 days. They tried to push this down. It's just not falling. So the question is this the bottom? I think maybe could get back to that 200 moving average, and by then it's back to a sell-off. They are not a well-ran company. They've made major mistakes along the board. It's a lot of dividends for a sub $100, but based on the market share, like $1.64 for less than $100, that's actually good dividends there. And like they kept it at $1.64. Probably that's what's attracting shareholders. No, they've been on this $1.64 for the longest. Listen, I think it's at its bottom. It pays $1.64 in dividends. You might want to put this in your radar just until the end of the year and prepare if you're going to do this as a long investment. As long as this support doesn't break, I think there will be a pullback. support here, and maybe support here if this thing starts to rally. As long as it doesn't get in that sub 95, you might be able to get a real good cheap company that gives very, very high dividends at $1.64. So put this on your radar for that too. Didn't even notice that. And that is interesting. All right, Starbucks, nice pullback. I did want it to get above $95. It did not do that. So right now I'm taking a break on Starbucks until it finds its new base. Maybe it's at the 50 moving average, but I do think that Starbucks can get back to 112 when it's all said and done. So just keep that in mind. What else I got for y'all? SoFi is still moving and doing this thing. I did add a small position to this, but I may start to look at my option contracts. And what else we got? Let's get into the second month. All right, second month, we got a couple of things. Eli Lilly, I still find it questionable. I think they're going to go a little bit lower. A lot of it's built on the fact of this weekly and new competitors are coming into space. And then if we go into the monthly, it's just been a big old barcode for the most part. Can this be the bottom of a range? Absolutely. But if we're going to go ahead and take this anything serious, I want a nice solid reset of the stochastic, a nice solid reset of this MACD. Don't get below the zero line, and then I probably will play it to the upside, maybe even take out this gap. But until then, I'm going to find this very questionable, even though it gained $7 in the pre-market. What else we got? Spotify still keep on moving. Damn. Oh my God. I should have got in over here. I should have got in. But yeah, we got a nice little solid move here for this upside, and it's just making new highs. That's just all it's doing. It hasn't really chilled. Like what, $800, $750, $725 is already beat. So we could just go with the psychological levels. If you're real fancy, I do use fibs sometimes, and I got one template, I call it profit taken, and it kind of gives me these levels to kind of see maybe 779, 761, 750. That's your negative 236, 382, and 618. Maybe that's what they're aiming for. But this looks really, really good. We got 6 days until this month ends. I would say wait to that, then put a fib like that and see if you can find a nice spot for it. But yeah, sorry, no pun intended on that. But find a nice spot into it and just take that trade. This is Carvana. I think it's going to give us a pullback, but it's going to be very interesting how it does or not. Damn, the pre-market's almost eating up this engulfing candle. It might take another ride to the upside and make new highs. Keep an eye on Carvana. If it breaks above, let's call it 345. If it breaks above 345 at any given point, it's going to go ahead and go for new highs. So I might set an alert at the open, maybe 336, and then play it into the new highs and see what happens. DoorDash did a 4% increase. We were talking about DoorDash. Oh, look at that. We were just talking about DoorDash. I'm probably gonna have to look at the video and see if I maybe, because right here this is a nice little move up. I don't think we made the new high yet the last time we talked about it, and this is that pivot right now with that increase right there. And then pre-market is just following suit as they're hitting people's stop losses. Investors that sit on the sideline is piling in. These divergences are just being ignored. They're being used for entries. Keep that in mind. Amazon is still falling, which I find very interesting in this space. I wanted it to get inside of 207, like 200, but I don't think I'm going to get that, especially with this pre-market. But if we could have got into here, Prime Day is July 8th. Okay, folks? Prime Day is July 8th. Snowflake looks solid. It's continuing to the upside. And then we'll do a couple more and go look at the news. AMAT gives you the supplies for a lot of these tickers I like. AMD, NVIDIA, and a lot of these semiconductors, the AVGO. They supply some of the tools they use. And then let's go to NVIDIA. Let's see how NVIDIA looks. Yeah, it's been running for a while. Again, tech is running right now, especially how we looked at NQ. Let me see what NQ is doing now. It's kind of like chilling right now for the most part, but given what NQ did overnight, given what they did yesterday, put it all together in a bow. NVIDIA is going to go ahead and benefit from it. But again, it's been running for a while, so some people are going to shave along the way. That's why you get these curves. A nice little bounce off this trend line would be great. So I would say mark off this trend. It's built off these 2 deviations that's here after the April reversal. Nice little test. Could spring this, and they could drag NQ to the upside. Very, very good company. Palantir looks like it's continuing its dominance and continue to that upside. Look for this to kind of continue. Maybe even get to that 150. Maybe that's the target that they're looking for. Clorox has been beat up for a long time, and it looks like we just put in a morning star down here. There's multiple deviations of this downtrend. I would say for a cheap ticker with solid dividends, again, this is a ticker that's almost to $100. It gives $1 per quarter. That's good money when it comes down to the dividend space. Looks like they're putting a histogram bearish bullish divergence here. I would say this Morningstar might go right into here. Maybe a close if you want to be safe. A close above 125. Then you could play Clorox into maybe like 130, 135 somewhere and see if they can get through this order block. Of course, your first take profit probably be like at 130, give or take, but you might be able to get to 135. What I would like to see to kind of give us a little bit of peace of mind is even if it rejects something along here, that they actually just get all the way up into this area here, allowing for this to be tested and then fall, because again, it's a massive, massive downtrend that they're on. This is just going to be one of those reversals just for a reprieve, so that way people can short it again. Oh my God, we got def cross, major crosses. This is my 800 EMA. Look at where they crossed that. And it hasn't tested EMA. That's all it is. We're going to test back to the 50 EMA maybe. Test back to the 200 EMA if it catches up to here. Maybe mid-July. Maybe like early December, depending on how the momentum goes. But yeah, I would like for Clorox to give us a little bit of bounce. Let's see, what else we got? Shopify had a nice little push. Look at this one. We could get this level here with the momentum that is building here. So maybe 117, get into the rest of this fair value gap, going into 121. And if that's the case, depending on how fast this momentum is, we're probably going to go ahead and get all-time highs. No, not all-time highs. Let's see if there's a target somewhere here. Let me get this here. Yeah, maybe here. Maybe some Shopify 133 calls will be very, very attractive. 130, 135, 140s, probably somewhere around there will be very, very attractive here. Probably give it some time, like September or December. That will be a solid one. It breaks out of here. They're probably going to power right into those, making it very valuable. Get into that 121, fill this gap. And then 132, 133, that's the area right there. So 130, 133 will be that area and get off there. That would be nice and solid, especially with the Stoke pointing up. Let's see what the weekly looks like. Weekly is a little exhausted. Might not be the most sound situation for them. We're crossing off on the 50% here. So maybe end of June, we get a strong close. I would love for us to close above this level by June 30th. That would help me with the momentum. So 6 days above 112, take to 135. Yeah, that's probably what we do. All right, what else we got? Roblox is still moving. This thing is not playing. Even the pre-market is a little bit higher. I thought they would just needed the 100 level, but now 100 could be the new support until it gets to like 130. And one more, since we got like less than a minute. Uber is like I kind of told you, I was like the 50 moving average is probably what they're looking for. A break of the neckline, probably going to go ahead and get this W to pay out. So above 88.38 on Uber is probably what I will be looking for. That'll give us a nice little momentum. That's not a lower low. Okay, I thought it was a bullish divergence here, but no, it's not a bullish divergence. Right, and then we get a nice little W pattern that came from here to that, then down here, and then just get a nice little W for the win. If you want to do a measure move, get the smaller side. This will be the smaller side. Get there. There you go. So about a $5 increase, maybe like a deviation when it gets up in there. All right, let's go check out what the news had, because Canada had some news. What did I do with my Facebook? Did I get rid of it? Oh, there it is. All right, let's see. Let's see. Bears for their dollar. Kind of mixed bag. Yeah, kind of mixed bag. Let me try refreshing and see if anything else pops up. Get out of there. Yeah, kind of mixed bag. I don't see anything that will have a major effect. We probably could just continue. Maybe the market is just going to do something crazy at 9:30, right before Fed starts speaking. Maybe that's what it is. We'll see. All right, let's go ahead and minimize that. All right. As we start to wrap up a little bit, let's go ahead and go back into the commodity. Oh, actually, hood pullback. Might give y'all one more. Yeah, let's look at hood. So hood pulled back yesterday. I really think that pullback is just to get people off. If you don't know what's going on with hood, this thing is really making a beeline to its IPO high. After it launched, it was a $35 stock during the ending of the pandemic. Of course, they made a lot of money. This $85 level is very, very tempting for it. I don't know why mine is not sitting right at 85. This $85 is really, really tempting. They just rejected it from there, right? And it could be earlier investors. They had to wait a full month before they could take their money, because this was July 1st, and then August 2nd is when they finally, or this month of August is when they sold it. And you can see the nice little drop here, built a base. They probably accumulated back their shares, and then now we're back at it again. So I want to see this take that $85 level, and then we'll probably get into that 100, test it, and then probably come back down. But it's looking really, really good, really good. All right, so to wrap up, let's go ahead and take another look at the commodities. I'm going to break this down from a 2-hour standpoint. That way we can get a little bit more granular view. Nice little push here. Actually, I might want to adjust that trend line now. Yeah. Where are you? Right there? Okay. Let's adjust that trend line, because we're making higher highs based on the pressure of that trend line. They're down here. That's their support. A little bit further, right there. Okay, and then we got ourselves a little bit of a deviation here. We can see what the market reaction is going to be when this happened, and then we got another deviation of that action from here to now right there, which we're kind of consolidating sideways as we're starting to kind of like beat it up a little bit. We're sitting right here, so if we hold this level and this fair value gap, maybe even retest a little bit over here, so that brings us into Wednesday. Well, that'll be interesting. That's when Jay Powell is done talking. That could be a nice little bounce area to continue to get those new highs. So let's see how the market reacts inside of here. Let's get into oil. Come on, behave. Like I said, oil is at that order block. They're trying to close it under here. I'm telling you, this thing closes under here, oil's going to come down a little bit. I don't think it's going to stay down there, because we're still in the heart of the summer. Oil is usually more expensive during the summer, so we got to keep a good eye on what's happening here. Here's gold. This thing is still, the mouth is wide open on here, Rod. I think gold's going to come down even more, man. Oof. I think that 3,300 level, you know what? Let me see if I can find a spot. This thing's already gone. That's already gone. Might have to wait for a pullback. 30-minute looks solid, but I was better off getting in on here than here. But this is a break and close confirmed. Yeah, I should have been in about 73 ticks. Let's see, 7.3. Yeah, so probably about 73 ticks or so away from there. What's current price action? Yeah, if I was in around there, that would have been better. So I'm probably gonna sit back, see if I can let this 1 minute kind of reset. But I think that 30 minutes gonna dump something vicious. All right, so let's keep this going. All right, like I said, so silver is following suit now. Silver is one that is detached, still charted. British pound, ooh, we kind of hit that brick wall. In 2 hours, we might put in an evening star. So we got an hour and 23 minutes before that happens. ES is starting to show some fatigue here. Let's see what happens there. Russell, they might come back and test this fair value gap, and that'll give us enough catalyst for that bounce. And then the infamous dollar, unless this thing gets out of this order block, this could be the double bottom. Maybe this thing starts to fall. Maybe they waited a full day to do this. Who knows? But at the end of the day, it's good to chart out the dollar, good to chart out the commodities, and then find your relative ticker and how they fit in those commodities to get you prepared with the market. All right. That's pretty much our show. We'll go ahead and... Oh, wrong camera. I'll go ahead and give y'all day. I want to say thank you very much for participating with the show. Of course, this is very fun for me to do it. Either way, I'm going to do it no matter what. I like it. Don't forget, click the like, subscribe, and the bell button. It's down at the bottom. That's how this whole YouTube algorithm kind of works. And then don't forget, I got my one-on-ones. They're available. And I can go ahead and I might bring back the Get Funded again. I've now funded so much accounts now. It's just freaking crazy now. Might bring that back because that's what kind of got me on my stride. But yeah, look out for that. So one-on-ones. Sorry, don't mean to brainstorm with y'all. One-on-ones is down below. It ends June 30th. Go ahead before I go on vacation. Break down the markets. Get you prepared so that we can make some money. And I bid you a fond farewell. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.